Good afternoon. So here we are. Oh, now loud car coming by. Truck with trailer. Good afternoon from Zion's Hill, and I'm down at the foot of our part of the hill. We are working on, probably this is the warmest day we're going to have until probably, I don't know, March, unless we have a big warm up in December like sometimes we get. So we're trying to get a lot more outdoor work finished, and I still got quite a bit to do for indoor work for tomorrow, but trying to get some of the final winterizing things done. So I just wanted to drop in to give a bit of encouragement and something that's been on my mind a little this afternoon, today, just reflecting on the tension that we're all experiencing, and we're seeing our nation and the world experiencing in questions like mask, not mask, gather, not gather, Thanksgiving, not Thanksgiving. Maybe you're in the nobody's gonna tell me what to do mode. That's a different video for a different time. When Israel had gotten themselves, Israel was in bad way. And so what was about to happen was Babylon was invading, and Jeremiah is telling the nation, Babylon is invading. There was no way to stop it. There was a whole bunch of people that were trying to find a way out. And they saw their best option in fleeing to Egypt. And God, in Jeremiah, warns them, don't go to Egypt. Don't flee to Egypt. That's not where I want you to go. I want you to go to Babylon. God's plan was for his people to end up in Babylon. Yes, they would be in captivity. They would be there in exile for about 70 years. But because they would all go to Babylon, they would form a community within Babylon and would help preserve their identity and their culture, so that then he had something to bring back. He warns them that going to Egypt, they'll be lost. They'll be assimilated and they'll be gone. And he says, anybody who flees to Egypt, you're basically running away from me. And if you go to Egypt, you're gone. And yeah, there were people who they fled to Egypt and lost their identity. They didn't end up coming back. God didn't bring them back from Egypt. They just became Egyptian and kind of died out. So you say, well, how does that affect things like whether I have Thanksgiving or not? Well, this is the thing, and this is what we're facing right now. And I think for Christians, sometimes we miss the realities of this world that God is very frank with us about. Sometimes we don't have good options. And sometimes we feel like when we look at one bad option, we feel, well, that seems like a bad option, so obviously that's not the right option. So there must be a better one. And that's what some of God's people were doing. They're like, I don't like the idea of being captured and overrun by Babylon. That seems wrong. You know, it might be better for us to voluntarily flee to Egypt. But that was the wrong move. But being captured by Babylon wasn't a good thing in the sense of, hey, yay, Babylon. I mean, those weren't nice people. They weren't coming to take you on a cruise. It was not, we're bringing you into protective custody. Babylonians weren't nice people either. They had no good options. Because sometimes this world, from a world's point of view, grants us no good options. And that's where we're at right now. And sometimes that really ticks us off, and we get pretty mad, and then we get mad at God, and then we make bad choices, like fleeing to Egypt. You say, well, I really want to gather. I want to be together as a church. Me too. I really don't want to get COVID. Me too. We don't have any good options. Because if we all just packed back into church, that could be a really bad thing. But staying away from church, that's a bad thing too. Lockdowns, good for the virus, bad for how we feel, and depression and isolation. Fighting isolation and depression by being around a lot of people, bad for the virus. You say, well, I can't win. Right, because this world does not always present us with winning choices. Now, that does not mean there's not something that God wants us to do. But so often we try to figure out what the right answer is by what's the easiest and what feels best. And yet sometimes God says, well, the best thing for you is to go to Babylon. Let Babylon take you out. That's what's best. I have an option for you, but you don't have any option that you're going to like. So for us, that means that, yeah, we are curtailing and we're having to say no on some things that we don't want to do because we have to be careful. And I want to protect my mom. I want to protect myself, not just because I'm being selfish, but because I need to provide for my family and still be able to pastor the church. And if I'm sick, I can't do those things. And I'm surrounded by some people who don't care, or they don't think they should care. They don't think they need to worry about this. And so I have to worry about it for them. I sometimes find myself with no good options. I can get mad. I can get bitter. I can go off and say, well, I'm just going to do whatever works best for me. None of those are wise choices. None of those are biblical choices. It means that we're limiting ourselves for Thanksgiving. You say, well, that's not good. No, it's not good. But right now we're in a situation where we don't have good choices. This is the nature of a fallen world. And rather than rage against it, I say, Lord, what's wise and where will you guide me? And that means doing church differently. It means doing Thanksgiving differently. It means doing family differently. It may mean living in Babylon for the winter. I know you hate it. I hate it too. And that's why I wanted to encourage you. Because when you say, I feel like I have no good options, yeah. And that's the book of Jeremiah. So maybe you want to read that. Because God says, yeah, this is going to be painful for a while. But God has a plan. And that's what Jeremiah 29:11 means. Jeremiah 29:11 doesn't mean that God's going to make everything just work out and you'll be so happy. The context of Jeremiah 29:11, he is sending them to Babylon. And he gives them verse 11 of chapter 29 to say, but as I send you into captivity, I know what I'm doing. And my plans for you are for good. It doesn't mean that they're going to feel good. Captivity didn't feel good. They hated it. But he reassures them. So you say, well, I don't like what's happening with church. I don't like what's happening with Thanksgiving. I don't like what's happening with the election. And God says, but I know what I'm doing. Faith, trust. I hate it when I'm uncomfortable. So, where are you doing today? I'm praying for you. I hope to see you tomorrow, even if it's just on the stream. I won't really see you, but you'll see me. I'm hoping that we can find ways to find the best options when we don't have any good options. Because God does have a plan for us, and sometimes it involves going to Babylon. Have a good afternoon. I'm about to take a break from all the work we've been doing to have some family time today because I won't see my family at all tomorrow. And so we're going to have a little bit of special family time this afternoon, and then I have stuff tonight. I'm going to do church with my dear brothers and sisters in Australia. Feel free to join me. I'll be sharing it to my page, and we can worship together in Australia, which is just the most awesome thing in the world. But don't fret over not having good choices, because God knows what he's doing. And let's not flee to Egypt and try to find an easy way out when God has led us into hard things. All right. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.